Hey everybody, welcome to this special edition of PuckTalk Montreal, where we discuss the reasoning behind the call-ups last night by the Montreal Canadiens. After the 6-1 beatdown by the Tampa Bay Lightning at the Bell Center, we know that the Montreal Canadiens were licking their wounds, and it didn't take long for them to do something about it. Adam Engstrom, Owen Beck, and most importantly, Jacob Fowler getting called up to the Montreal Canadiens. What does all that mean? Well, here's a fun thing for you. This story doesn't start with the Montreal Canadiens. It actually doesn't. It starts in Missouri, in St. Louis for that matter, where there's an acrimonious relationship between Jim Montgomery, the head coach of the St. Louis Blues, and their star goaltender, Jordan Binnington. Now, I know everybody's going to say that Binnington's a little bit of a head case, but earlier in December, Montgomery pulled him after he allowed 2 goals on 5 shots, and Binnington was pissed off, and he used some choice words to yell at and scream at Jim Montgomery. Now, of course, they say it's water under the bridge and that, they've known each other a long time, etc. But there's one thing for certain. Jim Montgomery is a very stubborn man, as is Jordan Binnington. Word I'm getting out of St. Louis is that Binnington wants out. He no longer wants to play for Montgomery, which is part of the reason why Montgomery started Hofer last night. Something's up. What exactly? That remains to be seen. Tomorrow night's game for the Canadiens versus the Penguins is going to be one of those things that we're going to have to watch. Why? Well, number one, as always, we have to see how many scouts are in the building for the St. Louis Blues. That in and of itself will indicate how important this game is for certain people. Owen Beck is already slated to be in the lineup, replacing Jake Evans, who's on the DL. He's a scratch for tomorrow. But then there's Adam Engstrom and, of course, Jacob Fowler. Now, I don't think Jacob Fowler is part of any deal. Don't get me wrong here. But I do think Jacob Fowler is with the team to give him the opportunity to show them what he may be able to do at the NHL level. If he shows well and if he plays well, then that will give the Canadiens a little bit more confidence to make a move if and when it has to happen. I'll give you an example. Say Jacob Fowler plays versus Pittsburgh and he doesn't do well. Well, then the Montreal Canadiens would be more inclined to trade for another goaltender than if Fowler absolutely stoned the Penguins and played exceedingly well. Now, Fowler's got a .919 save percentage at the American Hockey League level. He's got 3 shutouts. He's got a great record. There's no doubt that he's got a certain pedigree. But is it NHL-ready pedigree? We won't know that for sure, at least for a little while longer. But by and large, this is an attempt by the Montreal Canadiens just to take a look and see what Fowler can bring to the table and if he's close to being ready to take on the job at the National Hockey League level. What does that mean for Dobesh? And what does it mean for Montembeault? Well, I've had certain discussions with people today, and there is a very strong possibility that not only Sam Montembeault is the key piece in all of this going to St. Louis, but at the same time, 1 or 2 young prospects might go the other way in exchange for Jordan Kyrou. So ultimately, the deal would look like Jordan Binnington and Jordan Kyrou in exchange for Sam Montembeault, Owen Beck, and possibly Adam Engstrom. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, the Canadiens may not want to let go of a defenseman given how poorly the defensive played of late, but that's not necessarily on all the defensemen. It's on the system more than anything else. But still, when you can't play a one-on-one properly and when you have trouble defending along the half wall, it raises red flags. So we'll see exactly what happens. But what do you think? This is coming from multiple sources now. I'm not making this up. I'm hearing that Montembeault's name is being put into trade talks because the Montreal Canadiens believe he needs a change of scenery. His game is gone. He's no longer got the confidence to play in Montreal. The pressure's gotten to him. That's what I'm being told. And that's why he's playing so poorly, because he's inside his own head. And so maybe, just maybe, a change of scenery would be good for him. We know that a change of scenery would be good for Jordan Binnington, right? So why not make the move? Is it a PR issue? I don't think it would be. At the end of the day, Montreal Canadiens fans want to see victory. They don't care what language you speak or what country you're from. They care about the W at the beginning of the standings. And so if the Montreal Canadiens could get a quality goaltender, even if it's for a couple of seasons in anticipation of Jacob Fowler being ready, then that's fine. So think about it for a minute. Kyrou and Binnington for Montembeault, Engstrom, and possibly Owen Beck. Would you make that deal? In my mind, I make that deal in a heartbeat. Now, we're trying to find out what's going on in St. Louis, and we're reaching out to a couple of people to see whether or not there are going to be multiple St. Louis Blues scouts in the stands for tomorrow's game in Pittsburgh. That's going to be key number one. If there are, that means this deal is in the works. And it may very well happen sooner rather than later. The other part of all this, again, as I mentioned, is will Jacob Fowler play? If Fowler does play versus the Penguins, which Marty St. Louis has not confirmed one way or the other who the goaltender is going to be, if that's the case and that happens and Fowler plays and he plays well, then the Montreal Canadiens are going to have the green light to make a deal to move one of their two goaltenders at the NHL level. Either one of those guys cannot go down because they're not on waiver eligible. So at the end of it all, unless there's an injury and a conditioning stint required, nobody's going to the American Hockey League, right? Just like the other day where Montembeault was out, they called up Capo Kakkonen as a temporary backup. Well, that can happen again. Somebody could get called up, somebody could go on IR and then go to the American Hockey League on a conditioning stint and then come back to the NHL. But the conditioning stint, again, is 1 or 2 games tops. But at the end of it all, it looks to me, from what I'm hearing, is that the Montembeault era is coming to an end. Another thing that I am hearing, and it's something that I talked about, and I've posted it on social media today. I put up the article that I created back in July about Eric Raymond. There are rumblings out of the Montreal Canadiens head office that Eric Raymond is on borrowed time right now. The results that he's gotten, whether it's with Caden Primo, Sam Montembeault, Jakub Dobeš, are not anywhere near what the Canadiens want. Not only that, but if you look back at his track record, his ability to develop goaltenders like Georgiev in New York, not really something anybody talks about because Georgiev is done and back in the KHL, right? Shesterkin, uber talented. A blind monkey could have trained that guy to play nets. But Georgiev's game completely tanked under Raymond, and there was nothing that he could do to correct it. So now that's 4 goaltenders that have been under his study that he hasn't been able to help. If I'm the Montreal Canadiens, I'm pulling the ripcord now, and I'm getting another goalie coach. I don't care if I have to bring in Marco Marciano to the NHL level and have him work with all the goalies in the organization for a year and anticipate the arrival of Carey Price next season as a goalie coach, or whether or not I have to go out and get somebody who's a free agent right now, like Marc Champagne, the former goalie coach of Yaroslav Halak and the New York Islanders. There's all kinds of people available to be able to work as goaltending coaches. So sticking with Eric Raymond, despite the fact that the Canadiens are getting horrible results from the goaltending position, is something that the Canadiens absolutely need to look at, and is something that I would do sooner rather than later, because the longer he stays, the worse the goaltending situation is going to get. But tell me what you think of what I've heard about the trade situation. Would you make a deal to get Jordan Binnington and Jordan Kyrou out of St. Louis in exchange for Sam Montembeault, Adam Engstrom, and or Owen Beck? In my mind, it's a no-brainer because it immediately brings continuity to the goaltending position. Tell me what you think. I'll be back later with the pregame and the lineups. Hopefully we have some idea about what's going to happen with the goaltenders. But for now, this is where we're at. The reasoning behind Fowler coming up is to get a look and see where he's at as far as development is concerned, so that the Canadiens can make an educated decision as to what they want to do in terms of Jordan Binnington. Do they want him? Do they not want him? We'll see. Time will tell. And if we get news about anything going on as far as scouts in Pittsburgh, we'll put it up on our social media channels. Let me know what you think. Put it in the comments. Bye for now.